In today's training, we will discuss the preschool meal pattern. The agenda for today is to explore the meal pattern, discuss commingling, and review some frequently asked questions. Preschool meals served through the USDA National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program are designed to meet the nutritional needs of young children. Children receive meals that follow the preschool meal pattern if they are a student in the preschool grade level. There are two age grade groups under the preschool meal pattern: 1 through 2 years old and children 3 through 5 years old. On October 1st, 2017, the updated Child and Adult Care Food Program meal pattern was implemented for children not yet in kindergarten. First, we will start by discussing meal patterns. Here is an overview of the preschool meal pattern. We will focus on the 3 to 5-year-old age grade group because this is the most common age group that is enrolled in schools. Please note these serving sizes are the minimum amounts that must be provided. They are also age appropriate for young children. The preschool breakfast meal pattern consists of 3 food components that must be provided as part of a reimbursable breakfast: milk, fruit and/or vegetable, and bread grain. These required components match the school breakfast program. This chart compares the preschool breakfast meal pattern with the school breakfast meal program meal pattern for grades K through 5. As you can see, the serving sizes for the preschool breakfast meal pattern are smaller than the school breakfast program, and offer versus serve is not an option. The 5 required meal components for lunch are milk, meat alternate, grain, fruit, and vegetable. Notice that fruits and vegetables are 2 separate components at lunch. All 5 components must be served as part of a reimbursable lunch. This chart compares the preschool lunch meal pattern with the National School Lunch Meal Program meal pattern for grades K through 5. As you can see, the serving sizes for the preschool lunch meal pattern are smaller than those in the National School Lunch Program, except for meat alternate component. The pre-K meal pattern requires 1.5 ounces of meat alternate, but the K to 5 meal lunch program meal pattern only requires 1 ounce of meat alternate. Also, offer versus serve is not an option for lunch in the pre-K meal pattern. Here is the pre-K snack requirements. 2 of the 5 components must be served together in the listed quantities. We will now take a look at each individual meal component and review the guidelines, requirements, and special considerations for each. Fluid milk is the first of 5 components we will review. Only unflavored milk may be served to pre-K students. It can be low-fat or fat-free for children ages 2 to 5 years old. It is not required to offer different options of fluid milk under the pre-K meal pattern. Milk substitutions require the same documentation as in the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program. A signed diet prescription must be provided when a non-dairy substitute is needed for medical reasons. This diet prescription must include the required substitution and must be signed by a licensed medical practitioner with prescription writing authority. When a milk substitute is requested as a preference, the substitution request must state a suitable milk equivalent. Sponsors must make reasonable accommodations, but also must remain in compliance with the fluid milk substitution requirements. At breakfast, vegetables and fruits are combined into one component. Fruits and vegetables are separate individual components at lunch. Vegetables may also be used as a substitute for the fruit component at lunch. If vegetables are used instead of fruit at lunch, 2 different vegetables must be served. Juice must be pasteurized, 100% full-strength juice. It can be served no more than once per day. Be sure to check that juice is not served to pre-K students for breakfast, lunch, and snack on the same day if following the pre-K meal pattern. This slide provides an overview of the fruit and vegetable components. A few reminders include that juice can only be served once per day. Fruits and vegetables are considered one component at breakfast, and a second vegetable may be served in place of a fruit at lunch. At least 1 grain serving per day must be whole grain. If you only serve your pre-K students 1 meal per day, then that meal must have a whole grain rich item. If serving several meals and snacks during the day, then you can choose which meal will contain the whole grain rich item. Grain-based desserts are not credible in the pre-K meal pattern, and breakfast cereals have a sugar limit. Also, as a reminder, meat alternates can be substituted for grains during breakfast up to 3 times per week in the pre-K meal pattern. Desserts can easily be a source of empty calories, full of sugar and saturated fats. Grain-based desserts cannot be credited in the pre-K meal pattern. Those items are identified on Exhibit A with a footnote number 3 or 4. USDA Policy Memo, June 30th, 2017, CACFP, Grain-Based Desserts in the CACFP Program, updated Exhibit A to include graham crackers and animal crackers as allowable grains. Breakfast cereals include ready-to-eat instant and hot cereals as outlined in the bread grain chart. Breakfast cereals must be whole grain, enriched or fortified, and must contain no more than 6 grams of sugar per dry ounce in the pre-K meal pattern. This slide provides a summary of the pre-K meal pattern grain requirements. A few reminders include grain-based desserts do not credit in the pre-K meal pattern. Breakfast cereals have a sugar limit, and you must provide at least 1 whole grain item per day. The meat alternate component can include food items such as lean meat, poultry, or fish, eggs, dried beans and peas, yogurt, and nuts and seeds. Only commercially prepared firm and extra firm tofu may be used as a meat alternate. Tofu serving sizes of 2.2 ounces by weight or 1/4 cup of tofu must contain at least 5 grams of protein to credit as a 1 ounce equivalent of meat alternate. Meat components may be used to satisfy the entire grain component requirement at breakfast up to 3 times per week. At breakfast, 1 ounce equivalent of meat alternate is equivalent to 1 ounce of grain. For example, an egg, cheese stick, or yogurt could be part of a reimbursable breakfast and credit as a meal alternate substitute for the grain component. Yogurt provided as part of the reimbursable meal or snack must contain no more than 23 grams of total sugar per 6 ounces. As a reminder, for the meat alternate component for the pre-K meal pattern, 1.5 ounce meat alternate is required for the lunch pre-K as compared to 1 ounce requirement for the K-5 lunch meal pattern. The pre-K breakfast meal pattern may serve meat alternate in place of a bread grain up to 3 times per week. Lastly, the pre-K meal pattern has sugar limits for yogurt. When following the pre-K meal pattern, offer versus serve is not allowed and all components must be served. Offer versus serve is not an option because young children need time to explore different and new flavors, textures, and foods. Offer versus serve is only allowed for preschool-aged children when they are commingled and following the K-5 meal pattern for breakfast and lunch. Foods that are deep fat fried on site are not credible in the pre-K meal pattern. The following items can be purchased from commercial manufacturers: pan-fried, flash-fried, par-fried. However, it is not allowed to deep fry when reheating these items. USDA released a policy memo on June 30th, 2017 that recognizes that some schools serve meals to preschoolers and grades K-5 students in the same service area at the same time. These commingled situations may create counting and claiming issues because it is challenging to determine during meal service if a child is in preschool or grades K-5, and the meal patterns for each are slightly different. For example, children may arrive on the same bus and enter the cafeteria for breakfast together. In this situation, it may be difficult for meal service staff to determine which children are preschool or K-5. However, when students are served in the same service area, a single meal flexibility is allowed to reduce administrative burdens and ensure the integrity of the program. Therefore, schools that serve meals to preschoolers and K-5 students in the same service area at the same time may choose to follow the grade-appropriate meal patterns for each grade group, or serve the K-5 meal pattern under Parts 7 CFR 210.10 and 220.8 to both grade groups. USDA strongly encourages schools to find ways to serve age-appropriate meals to preschoolers. Commingled meals can be avoided by providing breakfast in the classroom and staggered meal times. Reasons to avoid commingled service include: 1. Serving preschoolers separately from older students may allow for closer supervision of the younger children, thereby allowing staff to better assist students with food packaging and monitoring mealtime behaviors that may increase the risk of choking. 2. Younger children may feel distracted or overwhelmed by older children, which may affect the amount they eat within the provided mealtime. And 3. The preschool meal pattern provides the amounts and types of foods at meals that most younger children need for healthy growth and development. Now let's discuss some frequently asked questions. If a school serves pre-K students and K-5 students in the same service area at the same time, may the school opt to serve one meal pattern to all students? Yes, in commingling situations such as this one, schools may opt to serve the K-5 meal pattern to all students. If a 5-year-old student is in preschool, which meal pattern does the school follow for that student? It depends. In situations when a 5-year-old is in preschool, the school must follow the preschool meal pattern requirements. Similarly, if a 4-year-old is in kindergarten, The school must follow the K-5 meal pattern. If a school serves preschoolers lunch under NSLP and a snack through CACFP, can the school serve juice at both lunch and snack? Yes, while the intention of the requirement is to serve juice up to once per day, FNS understands both the logistical challenges when a school operates both the school meal programs and the CACFP program. FNS encourages the school to serve juice only once per day as a best practice.